The Rams are 2-4 after a 5-point win over the Raiders at SoFi. The defense limited the Raiders to just 5 field goals, no touchdowns. The Chargers are on Monday Night Football tonight. They're at Arizona to take on the Cardinals. 6 p.m. kickoff on ESPN. The New York Liberty won their first WNBA championship. They beat the Minnesota Lynx in overtime in the decisive Game 5. Next year, the WNBA Finals expands to 7 games. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
I need your dollar, 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 that's what I need.
KBLA Talk 1580 celebrates small businesses, the enduring lifeblood of our community, with the launch of the KBLA SMB Marketplace. For the first time, small to medium-sized businesses will have an opportunity to promote their goods and services on KBLA and take advantage of our powerful reach and local marketing power. The SMB Marketplace is hosted exclusively on KBLA1580.com and is accessible from all our social media channels. Whether you're a small mom-and-pop restaurant, a car dealership, or a professional practitioner, we invite you to join in this new KBLA Talk 1580 initiative to promote your business. As a Black-owned small business, you don't want to miss this unique opportunity to gain new customers on KBLA Talk 1580. For more information, contact us today at smb@kbla1580.com. That's smb@kbla1580.com. At KBLA Talk 1580, we've got your black.
And if I share with you my story, would you share your dollar with me? Time to get paid.
Live from historic Leimert Park in Los Angeles, California, I'm Tavis Smiley, and I'm so glad to see you and me back in stride again. Before we get started with today's show, let me invite you to follow me on Facebook and Instagram at The Real Tavis Smiley, and get updates on X, that's formerly Twitter, at Tavis Smiley. By the way, should you miss any part of today's program or want to catch up on previous shows, you can always visit thetavisSmileyShow.com. That's thetavisSmileyShow.com, or wherever you get your podcast, and listen to the Tavis Smiley podcast version of this live program at your leisure. Another great show on tap for you today in our second hour.
Knowledge or education is the key to life. When we educate ourselves, we raise ourselves up emotionally and spiritually. And in a way, we become something else other than what we once were. Our thoughts may be quite rude, ignorant, and indifferent. Education teaches us to sharpen our thoughts so that they become weapons for truth, for understanding, for knowledge, for inquiry, for investigation. So education is the means also by which we begin to relate to each other as human beings and associate with each other as human beings. Without education, we see each other as enemies and as aliens. Through education, we can hopefully begin to understand the commonalities that exist between us and ways of moving forward in a common way.
University of Nottingham professor Anyika Nubia talks about the real history of black people in medieval Europe and explains why Queen Charlotte's African roots may be as mythical as Robin Hood. He is the foremost researcher and thinker and professor on black folk in Europe, and so we'll get you straight today on the real history, the true history of black folk, of Africans in Europe, when we get to our second hour with Dr. Nubia on today's program. In our third hour, actress, singer, producer, and now game show host Raven Simone joins us live in studio to talk about her new Scrabble gig Y'all know I love Scrabble, right? Raven Simone is hosting a new Scrabble show. We'll talk about her life as a child star and why she chooses to stay quiet on politics in this political season. Raven Simone today in Hour 3. Plus, there's a new documentary out about child stars. It's pretty amazing. I saw a bit of it a couple of days ago. Drew Barrymore, Demi Lovato, they're all in it. All these persons who were once younger child stars featured in this amazing documentary about the journey they have to travel. So I look forward to talking to Raven Simone about that as well when we get today to our final hour. But in this first hour, we cannot stay quiet on politics, especially given that it's all going down 2 weeks from tomorrow. A conversation in this hour with the Democratic strategist and former Senate insider Rebecca Katz as we embark upon the final stretch of the race for the White House and control of Congress. Rebecca Katz, good to have you on this program. How are you today?
Good to be here. 2 weeks. How you feeling?
Yeah, no, I was about to ask you the same thing, Rebecca. How are you feeling? You're the guest, so you go first. How are you feeling?
I'm cautiously optimistic. It is tight. Everywhere is tight. Like there's no poll that can make you exhale and feel good about where we are. Right? Everything feels very close, but there are some good trends, and the most important thing is that everybody's got to get out and vote.
Yeah,
that's it. That's like we got to get more of our voters than they have of their voters, and we're getting closer. But it's going to be tight.
Let's talk about as we move through this hour. We'll talk about turnout. We'll talk about those good trends that you just referenced. But let me start with the first point you made, which is that it is close. There are a lot of people who can't make sense of this, and I may be one of them. And there is no naivete here, as I often say. But Kamala Harris has outspent him, last I checked, about 20-1. Democrats have been bragging about the $1 billion of money that she's raised, I should say. Let me pause for a second. I laugh every 5 minutes on my phone when I get a new text begging me for money. I'm like, y'all have raised $1 billion. Why are you still begging me for money? If I don't send you five more dollars, Democrats are going to lose. And I know y'all laughing all across the country right now. The only one. Every 5 minutes I get a text, but you've raised $1 billion in a matter of weeks. But they keep begging for money. Put a pin in that. I will come back to the money issue a little bit later in this conversation as well. But here's my point, which is really your point.
Is for adults with HR-positive, HER2-negative NBC as the first hormonal-based therapy. Ask your doctor about Ibrance and visit Ibrance.com. Ibrance may cause low white blood cell counts that may lead to serious infections. Ibrance may cause severe inflammation of the lungs. Both of these can lead to death. Tell your doctor right away if you have new or worsening symptoms, including trouble breathing, shortness of breath, cough, or chest pain. Before taking Ibrance, tell your doctor if you have fever, chills, or other signs of infection, liver or kidney problems, are or plan to become pregnant, or are breastfeeding. Common side effects include low red blood cell and low platelet counts, infections, tiredness, nausea, sore mouth, abnormalities in liver blood tests, diarrhea, hair thinning or loss, vomiting, rash, and loss of appetite.
Make a move into a home of your own. With City National Bank's Ladder Up Home Loan Grant, you could receive up to $20,000 that you never need to pay back. Use it toward your down payment, save on closing costs, or to buy down your mortgage rate. Find out more at cnb.com/ladderuphome. City National, here for every stage of the journey. Property must be in a qualifying market in California, New York, or New Jersey. Additional terms and conditions apply. Not all applicants will qualify. Terms are subject to change without notice. City National Bank is an equal housing lender. Member FDIC. NMLS number 536994.
The possibility of lung cancer can be pretty scary, especially if you're one of approximately 8 million current or former smokers at high risk. That's why SaveByTheScan.org wants you to know that now there's a breakthrough low-dose CT scan that can detect lung cancer early, and it only takes 60 seconds. You stop smoking, now start screening. For an easy quiz to see if you're eligible, visit SaveByTheScan.org. It could save your life. SaveByTheScan.org is brought to you by the American Lung Association's Lung Force Initiative and the Ad Council.
Less monologue, more dialogue. Tavis Smiley continues right now.
Tavis Smiley just getting started right about now. Our guest in this first hour is Democratic strategist and former Senate insider Rebecca Katz. We are 2 weeks away tomorrow officially. Of course, early voting is underway everywhere, from California to the Carolinas and so on. As a matter of fact, I was sitting down last night going through my ballot, trying to get mine in the mail. Don't want to be bringing up the rear, so I'm trying to get mine taken care of today if I can. But early voting is underway, but November 5, 2 weeks away from tomorrow. I was mentioning a moment ago at the top of the hour here that I was talking about the money. Let me just unpack a bit more of this. I'm looking now at a piece in the New York Times today. Vice President Kamala Harris's campaign set a record for the biggest fundraising quarter ever. Pause for a second. Remember how concerned we were? I certainly was, by the short runway that Kamala had, and I wasn't sure how this was all going to work out, given that she didn't have a lot of room for takeoff. Well, it turns out that on this very short runway, she has recorded the biggest fundraising quarter in the history of this republic, raising $1 billion in the 3-month period that ended September 30th, reading from this reporting from the New York Times. Her campaign and its allied party committee said they raised $378 million in September alone. $378 just in September, compared with, wait for it, $160 million reported by Donald Trump's campaign and his allied groups. So she did $378 in September alone. He did $160, paltry by comparison. She's raised $1 billion in a 3-month period ending September 30th, and yet they are neck and neck in every single swing state. Rebecca Katz, you say what about that?
I think she'll need it. It sounds like a lot, but there's a lot of states that she's on the table for right now, and we have to win those states. You know, voters have known Trump for the last 8 years, probably actually more with his background, you know, before he got into politics. They are still learning a lot about her. A lot of voters think they don't know her. So she needs to communicate her message, and she's going to need every penny to do it. And the other thing, raising this kind of money, that also shows that people are behind her. That's a grassroots effort. That is many, many people saying that they want her and they are contributing to her cause. That is a good sign. But I just think there's so many. Think of all the different media markets you have to compete in. You know, from Wisconsin to Nevada to North Carolina, Pennsylvania, Georgia, Arizona, Michigan. You know, it's a lot of states. And you have to reach voters where they are, and it's a lot of money.
Here's the other part about this short runway that occurs to me as you're talking. The short runway, as I intimated a moment ago, clearly did not stop her from raising a lot of money. She set a fundraising record again, $1 billion raised in a 3-month period. So the short runway did not impact that. But everybody I talk to keeps saying the same thing, that voters don't know her yet. Well, when are we going to figure this out? We ain't got but 2 weeks left. So if voters don't know her now, as the song says, if you don't know me by now, you'll never know me. I don't know that in 2 weeks voters are going to know her. I'm raising that not to cast aspersion on her, but to say that may be the indictment of the short runway. The indictment of the short runway is not that she couldn't raise money, but that she didn't have time for voters to get to know her. But everybody I talk to, including Rebecca Katz, keeps saying the same thing. So it seems to me that if Kamala loses this race, part of the postmortem is going to be that the short runway didn't give her time to introduce herself to Americans. You want to go and say that now, Rebecca Katz, as part of your postmortem if she loses?
I don't want to say that. I want to say that people don't see Trump for who he is.
Right.
Right? They think he's a clown. They don't see him as being dangerous. And the biggest issue right now is they don't know if Harris is going to help them lower costs. Now, if you look at her policies and you look at Trump's policies, what a Harris presidency would do would help people with the high cost of living right now, right? Trump just wants to give tax breaks to his rich friends. And the problem is, like, people don't take him seriously. And they are concerned about their own households and their bottom line. And they're looking at that more than they could be embarrassed by Trump, but still think he's going to do a better job of cost. He is not, by the way, but that is the feeling.
Yep. So
it's hard. Yeah.
No. Let's finish your thought. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you. I thought you were done. Go ahead. Finish your point.
I mean, we have seen voters who will literally say they think Trump is evil, and then say they are undecided about who to vote for. Mm-hmm. I mean, think about that.
Yeah.
You know, they're very concerned about like their own what's going on in their life, and they haven't heard what she will do.
Yeah.
So that's what the last 2 weeks is about. It's about communication.
All right. So let me play devil's advocate. And I'm pretty good. I'm pretty good at this. and you're a strong Democrat. So let's have some fun here for a second.
Yep.
All right. So I want to stick with this postmortem just for a second here, because I'm always trying to think ahead, because I think that thinking ahead.
You got to think positive. You're already thinking the negative.
No. I'm not thinking. I told you I'm casting my vote today, so I'm not thinking negative at all. But I am a realist. I'm a realist. And I think that by looking forward, looking ahead, we may discover something that is instructive and informative for what we do in this moment, namely over the next 2 weeks. Let's see if we can come up on that. Here's my point, though. So again, you and everybody I've talked to keep saying that the voters don't know her yet, and that's why this race is so tight. It ain't money; it's that voters don't know her yet. And to your point, here's where you're right. If voters don't know her yet, she's going to need to spend every bit of that money to get her message out as best she can. So I hear your point about why she needs all this money, because voters don't know her yet, and that's a consequence in part of the short runway. But here's my question, which I raised months ago, as the listeners of this show know every day. If the ultimate conclusion, should she lose, is that she didn't have enough runway to introduce herself to the American people, then I indict the Democrats for that. Because it is the Democrats, it's your party, Rebecca Katz, that allowed Joe Biden to run for as long as he did until somebody decided that he was not the answer to the prayer. But had he not been renominated, had this happened sooner, had he given the torch to Kamala Harris before he did, et cetera, nobody would have the excuse to make that she didn't have enough time to introduce herself to the American public. That would be an indictment on the Democratic Party, would it not?
Well, I mean, there's a lot of what ifs there. I would take it a step back.
Okay.
We all saw Joe Biden at the State of the Union last January, and he held his own.
Yep.
He seemed to be in pretty good shape, right? He got great reviews, and we didn't see him that much for a while, right? And then we saw him at the debate, and we're like, what's going on here? And that was a rapid decline. I would argue Donald Trump is going through a similar rapid decline right now in terms of his mental health.
Right.
He is saying crazier and crazier things. Like, when you get old fast. I think all of us who have, parents and grandparents have kind of seen this happen a little bit. And I think that is what might be happening with Biden, what definitely is happening with Donald Trump right now. So I don't know. I can't look backwards, because what we do know is that when Harris entered this race with 100 dadays to go, it immediately energized the party in a way that we had not seen. We had these daily calls of with tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of people. There was energy, and she has been able to do basically the impossible in the last 100 days, which is basically stand up an entire presidential campaign, and she has done it very, very well.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
The reason that she's not running away with this is the country is divided.
Yeah.
We are a very divided country right now. And everything just feels very close. And it's not just the White House. It's the Senate. It's the House of Representatives. Every race that matters feels pretty tight. And that's because this country is really divided.
No, there's no question about our division. I'll close the circle on this issue with this. You're right about what we saw when we saw Joe Biden at the State of the Union, and then we saw him, many months later at this debate. That's what we saw. The key phrase, the key word in that sentence is we, because you know the same things I know, and the reporting has been everywhere, that the folk around him every day saw a very different Joe Biden. It was only after he got pushed off the stage that everybody then told us that we've known for months that he was not up to the task. So we saw him, not do so well at that debate, but not everybody in Washington. Everybody is in a circle. They knew this, and they were holding on nonetheless. So I just want to put that out there because, again, you've seen the same reporting I've seen. As a matter of fact, the op-ed that George Clooney wrote that he ran past Barack Obama before it ran in the New York Times said the same thing. Here comes Clooney telling us, I saw Biden months ago, and he was not the same. Oh, get out of here, man. All of y'all knew this, and nobody said anything about it publicly. But then he doesn't fare well in the debate, and y'all want to snap off on him. I didn't like the way Joe Biden got treated, particularly if the folk around him knew that all along. I didn't like it. I digress on that. I'm just making the point. When Rebecca says I should be positive, it's not that I'm not being positive. The point is, again, that everybody I talk to on this program keeps saying that the race is so close because the American people don't know her. Again, why do they not know her? Because she got the baton so late. Why did she get the baton so late? Just follow the line of questioning. You'll get it. Speaking of Donald Trump and the report that Rebecca makes a moment ago, sounding crazier and crazier every day. In case you didn't hear this, we got to bleep out the word, but I'm sure by now you've seen all the reporting about it. Here's what he said about Kamala over the weekend.
So you have to tell Kamala Harris that you've had enough, that you just can't take it anymore. We can't stand you. You're a vice president. The worst. You're the worst vice president. Kamala, you're fired. Get the hell out of here. You're fired.
So the word that he used that got bleeped out, you heard you heard the S sound. She's a S-E, that's as in Y, an SC president. So you know exactly what he said. This is family radio, and I don't want an FCC fine. But that's what he called her, and that was after a couple weeks ago he called her a retard or retarded. So he is getting, he's getting more and more off the chain, more and more unhinged. I get it. And yet that does not seem to be in any way causing a problem for his numbers in these swing states, Rebecca.
Part of it is the breakdown of media, that there's so many right-wing outlets for people to get their news that they're only seeing what they want to see. But yeah, I mean, it's hard to literally listen to him and think, what is he saying that is getting so many Americans excited, right? Like, what is happening? Because for me, like, if you want to raise a family, if you want to teach your kids good values, if you want to help elderly with Social Security and Medicare and help women and all these things, voting for Harris is a no-brainer. But I think that he's got a hold on a lot of folks. Yeah. Because they're not happy with the situation that they're in. And he's telling them life will be better. And if someone keeps saying it, and they're like, he's a good salesman, right? That's how we all know his name. Yeah. He knows his audience. Yeah. So
let me ask you this. Just watching my timer. I got 3 minutes right now. We'll continue when we come forward. But if you were advising, and you've done this a lot as a Democratic strategist, that's what you do. If you were advising, and I'm going to ask you the hard question because, again, even though you would never be an advisor to Donald Trump, I still want to know your answer to this question. So if you were advising both Kamala Harris and Donald Trump right now about the self-inflicted wounds, that they should not be guilty of for the next 2 weeks. For the next 2 weeks, do not do this, Kamala. For the next 2 weeks, do not do this, Donald Trump. What would you caution them about with regard to those self-inflicted wounds over the next 2 weeks?
I think Harris has been an incredibly disciplined candidate over these last couple of months. I think she's got to keep her head down and keep doing the work, right? Just showing people who she is and what she believes. I love that they're showing Trump clips at Harris rallies. I love that they're showing people this is who he is. And I love that she's baiting him a little bit, talking about his small crowds, because that seems to be the only thing he cares about. He hasn't really gone after voters beyond his base. Like, he is saying the same thing to these crowds as always. But the one thing he's doing well is he's trying to sow some of the hatred with people who are not happy about where they are, where he is targeting men. He is targeting men who are not happy about their lives. And he's making them angrier and angrier. There's no positive Trump now. It's all like against Harris, against the Democrats, against the people who have made your life so hard. He doesn't really stand for much except against them. And I think his main thing that he has to keep doing is honestly talking to men. So I think the more that he tries to appeal to women, I think the more he fails, quite honestly.
Yeah. Here's my retort right quick, and we can continue this when we come forward. Yeah. But my retort would simply be this, that strategically at least, the reason why Trump may be sounding crazier and crazier to us, is because he's playing more and more to his base. Now, why in a race this close would you do as Rebecca Katz has suggested you not do, which is to not reach beyond your base? If you see the race is this close, doesn't it make sense to reach beyond your base and try to pull some other voters in? Well, maybe not. If you believe that the race comes down to turnout, and if you believe you can motivate and animate your base to come out more than the other side, you may not need to reach out beyond your base. You heard Rebecca say earlier, this race is going to come down to turnout. If you believe that saying the things that you're saying, the stuff that we think are wild and crazy, but if you think that is animating, it's red meat to your base, and with that kind of outreach, that kind of language, calling her an SE vice president and a retard and all that, if you think that's going to animate your base to turn out more than the other side, maybe that's why he's doubling down and not that much concerned about reaching out beyond his base. That's my thought for now. We'll let Rebecca respond to that when we come forward on Tavis Smiley.
Why does Tavis say when we come forward? Because he's not going back. And you don't have to go back either. Forward ever, backward never. More of Tavis Smiley when we come forward.
Paid for by government.com. Did you know? The United States Mint has issued a new Morgan silver dollar coin in proof condition for the first time. Not only that, they are also minted in 99.9% pure silver for the first time ever in history. Coin experts are calling this an amazing opportunity for anyone that knows the enduring popularity of Morgans. But you must hurry. Only 400,000 of these legal tender silver dollars were issued. These first ever Morgan silver dollars are brand new with stunning mirror-like finish, minted by the iconic San Francisco Mint. Call now and you're guaranteed a new first ever 99.9% pure silver proof Morgan dollar. To learn more, call 1-800-973-9717. If you order now, you will receive a free coin collector bonus pack, a $25 value, free with every order. Call 1-800-973-9717 now to secure your new Morgan silver dollars before they are gone. That's 1-800-973-9717.
I'm Bree Wood with 4 Things You Should Know from BIN News. A new study in the International Journal of Epidemiology looked at the health risks of sedentary behavior like extended periods of sitting. The study found that standing more doesn't necessarily lower the risk for cardiovascular or circulatory issues. Billionaire Elon Musk's $1 million a day giveaway is underway. During a rally Saturday in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, Musk said he'll give $1 million a day between now and Election Day to someone who signs his petition supporting the U.S. Constitution. Second gentleman Doug Emhoff and billionaire businessman Mark Cuban spent part of their Sunday in Grand Rapids, Michigan, campaigning for Vice President Kamala Harris. Cuban is an independent and says Harris will put America in a better position than former President Trump to succeed and make more money. And finally, the last full-size Kmart store in the continental U.S. has closed its doors. The Kmart in Bridgehampton, New York, shut down for good on Sunday. Get BIN News on demand 24/7 at BINnews.com.
Hi, I'm Kyle at Blindster.com. I started Blindster in 2010 in my garage after I overpaid for new blinds. I researched the industry, hired my mom, and 14 years later, we're one of the largest retailers of custom blinds in the U.S. Don't pay too much for new blinds. Go to Blindster.com.
Is this the This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
The Dodgers and New York Yankees in the World Series has a nice ring to it. For the first time since 1981, 2 of Major League Baseball's most celebrated franchises will meet up for the 12th time to decide the MLB championship. Game 1 is Friday at 4 p.m. at Dodger Stadium. The Dodgers eliminated the New York Mets in 6 games. The 10-5 win Sunday night gave the Dodgers 46 runs against the Mets, the most by any team in a postseason series in MLB history. The Rams are 2-4 after a 5-point win over the Raiders at SoFi. The defense limited the Raiders to just 5 field goals, no touchdowns. The Chargers are on Monday Night Football tonight. They're at Arizona to take on the Cardinals. 6 p.m. kickoff on ESPN. The New York Liberty won their first WNBA championship. They beat the Minnesota Lynx in overtime in the decisive Game 5. Next year, the WNBA Finals expands to 7 games. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
We must understand the politics of our community, and we must know what part politics play in our lives.
Questions about black voters, their disengagement, lack of information, and support or lack thereof for Democratic candidates have once again taken center stage as Democrats, Republicans, and independent candidates compete for this critical voting bloc. Will black voters abandon Democrats in this election, move historic numbers of votes toward the Republican nominee, or will they continue a decades-long trend of overperforming for Democratic candidates up and down the ballot? The stakes have never been higher for Black America. Tune in to KBLA's new show, The Black Pack, hosted by veteran political strategist Adrian Shropshire, every Friday from 4 to 6 p.m. for a breakdown of the issues, rhetoric, polling, and more this election year. It's The Black Pack with Adrian Shropshire, Fridays from 4 to 6 p.m. exclusively on KBLA Talk 1580.
Moments like making my kids my famous meatballs mean a lot to me. But after being diagnosed with metastatic breast cancer, or MBC, which is breast cancer that has spread to other parts of the body, they mean even more. I take Ibrance, palbociclib.
Ibrance 125 milligram tablets with an aromatase inhibitor is for adults with HR-positive, HER2-negative NBC as the first hormonal-based therapy. Ask your doctor about Ibrance and visit Ibrance.com. Ibrance may cause low white blood cell counts that may lead to serious infections. Ibrance may cause severe inflammation of the lungs. Both of these can lead to death. Tell your doctor right away if you have new or worsening symptoms, including trouble breathing, shortness of breath, cough, or chest pain. Before taking Ibrance, tell your doctor if you have fever, chills, or other signs of infection, liver or kidney problems, are or plan to become pregnant, or are breastfeeding. Common side effects include low red blood cell and low platelet counts, infections, tiredness, nausea, sore mouth, abnormalities in liver blood tests, diarrhea, hair thinning or loss, vomiting, rash, and loss of appetite.
You know where you want to go in life, and City National Bank can help. City National knows the dedication it takes to build your vision for the future into a reality, and our team is here for you. We have a wide range of options to help, from personal savings accounts to interest-bearing money market savings accounts and more, all designed to help you get where you want to go. City National, here for every stage of the journey. Learn more at cnb.com. City National Bank is a subsidiary of Royal Bank of Canada, member FDIC.
Sweet chocolate reward. Sweet chocolate reward.
This is not just the sound of someone picking up a sweet treat at Walgreens. This is the sound of someone picking up a sweet treat right after receiving all their vaccines in one trip. This is the sound of treating yourself, because you protected yourself.
Stop by or schedule both your flu and COVID-19 vaccines today and grab yourself a sweet treat while you're at it. Vaccine subject to availability. State, age, and health-related restrictions may apply.
Hey, can you blow up some balloons for Jack's party?
I can't. I'm so congested.
You need Sinex Saline from Vicks.
Sinex Saline nasal spray?
Yeah, just Sinex. Breathe.
Sinex Saline instantly clears everyday congestion associated with colds and year-round allergies with a gentle, ultra-fine mist that's no mess and easy to control.
Daddy, we need more balloons.
On it.
Enjoy life's important moments without congestion. Try Sinex Saline from Vicks. Just Sinex. Breathe. Use as directed.
More honesty than you can handle. More empowerment than you can imagine. You're tuned in to Tavis Smiley.
Tavis Smiley, Rebecca Katz, who's a Democratic strategist and former Senate insider, as we talk politics in this first hour, given that tomorrow, as you well know, we are 2 weeks away officially from November 5. In a moment, don't move. I'm going to play a Donald Trump clip from this weekend that you have to hear. You have to hear this if you've not heard it. This would be Exhibit B to prove the point that Rebecca Katz made earlier, that Donald Trump is becoming more and more unhinged by the moment. You have to hear this. I'll play it for you in 30 seconds. After I read one of the many comments that we're getting from listeners regarding this particular conversation with Rebecca Katz. Tavis, happy Monday. Given your guest point, I think that Kamala needs to stop talking about how incompetent, evil, and unstable Trump is, and talk more about what she plans to do, including what she will do for the poor. I also believe that this matter of people not knowing her is somewhat bogus. Racism, as you often say, Tavis, is as real as rain, and it is at play in this election. Trump is a horrible human being. Everyone knows that. Yet there are those who are still sticking with him. You ask the question why. I'll tell you why. Because something in him is also in them. That's a cold line. Thank you. Something in him. That thing that's in him is also in them. And that's why they're sticking with him. Beautiful comment that I wanted to share with one of our listeners. Now, to the clip that I'm going to play now. If you have sensitive ears, you might want to just plug your ears. But this is it's all at once funny and scary at the same time. But this is Donald Trump, Exhibit B, that he's getting more and more unhinged. This is Donald Trump Saturday in Pennsylvania. Take a listen.
You know why? The home of Arnold Palmer. This was the home of my friend Arnold Palmer. And he loved Latrobe. You know, he turned out to be one of the greatest golfers in the world. But Arnold Palmer was all man. And I say that in all due respect to women, and I love women. But this is a guy that was all man. This man was strong and tough. And I refuse to say it, but when he took showers with the other pros, they came out of there, they said, oh my God, that's unbelievable. I had to say it.
I refuse to say it, but he said it. This is potentially the next president of the United States at a campaign rally talking about the late, great Arnold Palmer's genitalia. What that has to do with winning votes, I do not know. But Rebecca made the point earlier, and she doesn't need my help, but I'm just giving her some assistance here. That's another example of how unhinged he has become. But here's the thing that's not so funny about it. It circles back to what we were talking about earlier. He's been outspent by Kamala 20-1. He's at a campaign rally talking about somebody's genitalia and how they were all man. I love women. But he was all man. I refuse to say it. He was all man. I mean, this is what you're getting. And yet, to the comment I just read from one of our listeners, these folk are sticking with him. This race is tighter than tight. And I was saying to my staff a moment ago before we came back on the air, listening to that clip, preparing to play it for the audience, Rebecca. I was saying that to me, to my mind at least, this is far worse than Joe Biden. We were talking about Biden earlier and how horrible he was at that debate. So Biden is a little slow. He's slipping a little bit. His memory is not what it used to be. But this right here is completely and totally unhinged. How it is that anybody could vote for somebody when you see up front that they are losing it every day, I do not understand, except to say that this country, as Rebecca already said earlier, is extremely divided. But to vote for this guy, you really, really have to hate the other side and not care much about the democracy, the stability, or the fragility of it to vote for Donald Trump. When you hear stuff like that, Rebecca Katz, I digress.
So when he says you really have to hear this, I want to say, number one, I did not have to hear that. I did not want to know that. I wish I could start that entire conversation.
Unhear that, huh?
Yeah. Right. I mean, Biden, who was getting older, like, at least he was a decent man. Yeah. Right? At least he was like, he didn't go off script like that. Now, what I will say is if you go to these two websites, you go to KamalaHarris.com and then you go to DonaldJTrump.com and you look at what they stand for, right? I'm not talking about who they, like all the crazy stuff he's saying on the show. I'm saying if you look at what they stand for, it is very hard to come away from that and say that you should not be for Kamala Harris, right? She will make people's lives better. And I think the problem is Trump is promising, everything like a snake oil salesman, and people believe him. He just went to this like Bronx barbershop and just started telling everyone everything they wanted to hear, and then started making up these crazy stories about how one day you send your kid to school as a girl and she has an operation during the day, and then poof, she's a man, right? I mean, it's like it doesn't make sense. He's just getting people angry, and he's doing it out of fear. And Harris is trying to present a vision that actually helps Americans, that actually makes their lives better. And it's really uphill. She's got a lot of challenges right now. Racism, misogyny, and yes, also the fact that people don't know her yet. And she is trying hard out there. She is working so much harder than he is. And I will also say his voice sounded a little slurred in that last tape you just played. The way that he's talking, it just does not make sense. She is a competent leader for our time. He is not.
I said earlier that I believe that Trump is in part doubling down on his base because he believes this race is going to be very close, and he understands it's going to be about turnout. So how concerned, how scared are you about turnout?
I mean, I'm worried. It's about whose base turns out more in this kind of division. I think it's not. I think your listeners, like, we don't have to preach to everyone to go out and vote. I think a lot of them are voting. We have to get everyone they know to vote too, right? Like, and if we have to vote all up and down the ticket. We need to make sure that we have protections in. We need a Democratic House. We need to get as many Democratic senators as possible. And there's a lot on the table right now. So if you're someone who you've already cast your vote for Harris and you're like, what can I do? I would say go try and help Hakeem Jeffries become Speaker of the House, right? Because there are a bunch of districts all over this country that we need to win. And we are close, whether it's in the LA area, New York area, or even some of these more purple and red states. There are these pockets of districts that we can make a difference in.
So Rebecca Katz said earlier that there are some good trends. She concedes that it is about turnout, no question there. But she said there are some good trends, and she wants me to be positive. So I'm going to be positive when we come forward. Let Rebecca share with you some of those good trends that she was referencing. You're listening to Democratic strategist Rebecca Katz on Tavis Smiley.
Hope, agency, dignity. This is Tavis Smiley.
Can you dig it? Come on!
Vice President Kamala Harris.
I get it. The cost of rent, groceries, and utilities is too high. So here's what we're going to do about it. We will lower housing costs by building more homes and crack down on landlords who are charging too much. We will lower your food and grocery bills by going after price gougers who are keeping the cost of everyday goods too high.
Kamala Harris's economic plan is focused on lowering costs for families, so you can keep more of your paycheck. That starts with the cost of housing. For first-time homebuyers, she's offering $25,000 in down payment assistance. To build wealth, her plan offers up to $50,000 in new startup tax deductions. This is exactly how we can build generational wealth and strengthen our community, so we can get the chance to do more than just get by, but to get ahead.
You work hard for your paycheck. You should get to keep more of it. As president, I'll make that my top priority.
I'm Kamala Harris, candidate for president, and I approve this message.
Paid for by Harris for President.
We asked seniors how to prevent Medicare scams.
My best advice, if you get a phone call, do not talk to the person. These people are well-trained. Don't talk to them.
They don't know me. They're just trying to scam me.
Don't be fooled. Hang up. Just hang up.
Never give out your Medicare number.
They're going to get your number to put in a false claim.
If I get a call from someone, I don't pick up the phone, and should I pick up the phone and they ask for information, then I hang up.
How do you detect Medicare fraud?
Just like I check my credit card statements, I check my Medicare statements monthly.
Scammers can get a hold of your number, order medical devices through your account, and you're not even going to know about it if you don't look at your statement.
Check your statement every month.
If you get your statement and you see something that you know you did not have done, you report it.
Call your Senior Medicare Patrol.
To report Medicare fraud, call the Senior Medicare Patrol at 855-613-7080.
October is Cybersecurity Awareness Month, and LifeLock is here to elevate your protection game. Using the same simple password across all your accounts, that's risky. While updating your passwords to be more unique is a good start, true peace of mind comes with LifeLock. LifeLock doesn't just alert you to suspicious activity, but monitors for more uses of your personal info and will fix identity theft issues that arise, guaranteed, or your money back. Secure your identity today with a 30-day free trial at LifeLock.com. Use promo code NEWS. Terms apply.
Mom, meet Sarah.
From first-time Nana moments.
Welcome to Flight 101.
To annual girls trip moments.
Your can't-miss moments are worth protecting against RSV. If you're 75 or older or 60 plus with a chronic condition like asthma, COPD, heart disease, or diabetes, you're at higher risk of being hospitalized from RSV, and there are no prescription RSV treatments. Check eligibility and schedule your RSV vaccine at vaxassist.com.
So where should we go next?
Sponsored by Pfizer.
Helping to make you the most knowledgeable person in your circle of friends. This is Tavis Smiley.
Tavis Smiley, Rebecca Katz, Democratic strategist, former Senate insider. Pleased to have her on this program, at least for the next 10 minutes. When I lose at the top of the hour, we move on to the next subject for hour 2. But while I have her, so you said earlier there were some good trends that you're looking at least, Rebecca Katz. What are those good trends?
We're seeing some good stories coming out of the early vote. Right now, you know, there's lots of people voting all over the country in places like Michigan and Pennsylvania and Wisconsin. We're getting a pretty good and hefty Dem turnout. That is a good thing. We are also seeing many more women voting. That is great, and young women. I think many of the young women who are voting early, I think that's a good sign for Harris. This thing is far from done, but I do think Harris has really energized a huge swath of the population, and who were already energized, honestly, post the decision for the Supreme Court with 3 of Donald Trump's justices to take away our rights. I think women now are going to make the difference in this election.
Mm-hmm. You mentioned Hakeem Jeffries. I want to come back to that in just a second.
Yeah.
By the way, I think Hakeem Jeffries, the minority leader who may very well soon become the first African-American Speaker of the House. I think Hakeem is on this program later this week. Speaking of which, I know that independent candidate for President Jill Stein is on the program later this week. I also know that some guy named Denzel Washington is on the program tomorrow. So Denzel tomorrow and Jill Stein on Wednesday, I think. I think Hakeem is here on Thursday, along with Amanda Seals and maybe Samara Joy, great artists with some great guests. I'm detouring for a second.
That is a lot of different kind of. I mean, I would love for you to ask Jill Stein why she's running and who's paying for it.
I will ask her.
Because she's on that ballot, and she is in very tight races. She could get votes that could be going to Harris, and she could sway Trump to victory. And it is very disturbing.
You can best believe I will put that question to her because Rebecca Katz told me to when she shows up this week on the program. But back to Hakeem Jeffries, who, again, I hope to speak to again later this week as well. The fate of Congress is the issue here. Let me just tee this up when we come forward in our remaining moments. I'll let Rebecca sound off on this. Since she went there, I want to follow her because I did want to cover this. It's not just presidential race. Democrats could take back control of the House. But every poll, every survey, every study I'm looking at still suggests that while they could pull that off, at the moment, it's still a coin flip. Why? Because, you know why. Because gerrymandering in the House means that we already know the outcome of most of the House seats. There are only about 10% of House races that are ever really competitive. And that's true to form this time. There are about 10% of House races that are competitive, but Democrats could, in fact, pull this off. They did much better in 2022 midterm election than people thought they were going to do. So Hakeem Jeffries could be the brother speaker. We'll talk about what the House looks like when we come forward with Rebecca Katz on Tavis Smiley.
What's your quarrel with the world? You're listening to Tavis Smiley.
Standing up for everyday Americans is at the very foundation of who Kamala Harris is. Raised in a middle-class home by a working mother who instilled in her a passion for justice and equality. That's why when Kamala Harris became district attorney, she stood up for our kids, keeping them safe by prosecuting sex offenders. She also pioneered a program to give nonviolent drug offenders a second chance. As president, Kamala Harris will continue the fight for everyday Americans. She's already lowered the cost of your health insurance and medications. Insulin is now capped at $35 for seniors. But there's more to do because mortgages, rents, groceries, and utility bills are still too high. Harris's plan to fix it? Build more homes to lower prices and make the wealthy and billionaires pay their fair share so we get a break. All her life, Kamala Harris has been standing up for us, and she doesn't plan to stop anytime soon.
I'm Kamala Harris, candidate for president, and I approve this message.
Paid for by Harris for president.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580, connecting you with services and solutions. LA County's new Justice Care and Opportunities Department, or JCOD, is here to support justice-involved individuals and their families. The JCOD Support Center is now taking calls at 1-833-LACJCOD. That's 1-833-522-5263. Available 7 days a week from 6 a.m. to 11 p.m., the Support Center is your one-stop shop for re-entry issues and court support. They offer court reminders, connections to local services, transportation assistance for housing, court appearances, and childcare. The JCOD hotline provides personalized help to connect you with services that you need. And don't forget to check out justiceconnect.org for more information. Remember, it's free and available every day at 1-833-522-5263. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
If you're like me, 60 and retired, making ends meet, especially here at the supermarket and drugstore, is tough. I'm so blessed to have found benefitscheckup.org. It's a free and confidential website from the National Council on Aging that connected me to $1,200 a year in programs that help pay for food, medicine, utilities, and more. Maybe it can help you. benefitscheckup.org.
You know where you want to go in life, and City National Bank can help. City National knows the dedication it takes to build your vision for the future into a reality, and our team is here for you. We have a wide range of options to help, from personal savings accounts to interest-bearing money market savings accounts and more, all designed to help you get where you want to go. City National, here for every stage of the journey. Learn more at cnb.com. City National Bank is a subsidiary of Royal Bank of Canada. Member FDIC.
Made fresh daily in Leimert Park, Los Angeles, California. You're listening to Tavis Smiley.
Tavis Smiley and Rebecca Katz, a Democratic strategist, former Senate insider for the next 4 minutes at least. Hakeem Jeffries could be the first brother Speaker of the House. If Democrats can pull this off, once again, they did fairly well in 2022, a midterm election, where the incumbent party usually loses seats. Democrats held pretty steady in 2022, so they were excited about the possibilities this time around to take over the House and, again, make Hakeem Jeffries the first African-American Speaker of the U.S. House. But only 10% of House races are competitive, Rebecca Katz. You know that as well as anybody. What say you then about the Democrats' chances this time around?
So do you know where we actually did not do well last cycle? In
New
the
York.
blue state.
Yeah, in New York.
We basically lost the House of Representatives in New York and California.
Exactly.
Those voters are the ones that decided to get the most. They went red when everyone else was going blue. So, I mean, I think of the House, the Senate, and the White House, we probably have the best chance to win the House, right? There are enough seats that are competitive all over the country, and the Democrats are not going into this blind. They have been raising money. They have been able to communicate their message, and they are not crazy, right? So in these purple districts that could go either way, the Democrats look a lot more sane, and that matters, right? These districts might be tilt Republican, but they don't tilt MAGA, right? So I think we have a very good chance to make Hakeem Jeffries the next Speaker of the House. I think we have a very good chance to do that. And hopefully people will come to vote, and they'll vote Democratic up and down the ticket, and we can finally all exhale a little.
Yep. What do you? I mentioned earlier you are a former Senate insider. What's your read on the Senate? On the Senate at this point?
I mean, it's going to be tight in a lot of races. I feel good about our chances. I do think we need to pick up somewhere, as we would say, like rob a bank somewhere. Do you know what I mean? Like, where can we get one of their seats? And I think this may be the closest thing we can do. That's Colin Allred. He's running against Ted Cruz, who's, the worst, who abandoned the state when there was a huge crisis. But it's still Texas, and it's still going to be very, very uphill.
Yeah.
But if anyone has a shot to shock people, that's the race, Colin Allred. I would say.
No, I've been reading that, and yet I'm with you. It's still Texas, and so I just don't know.
Right.
I don't know if you're putting all your hopes on Texas as a place where you're going to pull off an upset.
Right.
As a Democrat, I'm not so sure how wise that is. You may be as unhinged as Donald Trump is if you're putting all your eggs in that basket. But we shall see.
Yeah, but I mean, if we're going to lose Montana, I think we're going to hold on to Ohio, Pennsylvania, feel very good about Arizona.
Yeah.
Wisconsin's getting tighter, Michigan's getting tighter. Like, it just feels tight everywhere.
No.
So that's why it's like let's believe in something, right?
Yep.
Like let's will it to happen.
No, I think it's fair to say. I think it's fair to say that there will be a number of these races, including perhaps the White House, that we will not know on November 5 or November 6 or November 7. So I think we have to brace ourselves for effects. And just to get our minds right and wrapped around the fact that we're not going to know the outcome of some major races. We may not know the outcome of the race for the White House. We may not know who controls the House. We may not know who controls the Senate for days after November 5. So I'm just preparing to settle myself in for as long as it's going to take to get these things figured out.
I know. It's very hard to be asked to be patient, especially with something this big, but it could take a minute.
I think it will.
Really could.
I think it will. Rebecca Katz, good to have you on as always, Democratic strategist, former Senate insider.
Thank you so
Thanks
much.
for your insight. We'll do it again. All the best to you. 1 hour down, 2 hours to go. You're listening to Tavis, Smiley, and I'm glad about it.
KBLA 1580 Santa Monica.
I'm Bree Wood with 4 Things You Should Know from BIN News. A new study in the International Journal of Epidemiology looked at the health risks of sedentary behavior like extended periods of sitting.